A is for Alcoholic is a program about recovery. My name is John, and I'm an alcoholic.
And my name is Jerry, and I'm an alcoholic.
Join us as we go through the alphabet of alcoholism, one letter at a time. Today is the day. Today, Y is for yes, is what we are talking about.
Yes.
And just a quick note, patreon.com/AIFA. There's bonus content on there right now. Jerry and I have a discussion about prohibition, teetotaling, and we also have a discussion about holiday travel and survival tips, tricks. And what's the other one that's on there? Well, we did the playlist.
The playlist.
That one's awesome. You guys should definitely check that out.
I need to listen to that one. I haven't even heard it yet.
Jerry's Spotify playlist. So that's all on Patreon. And if you're not with us on Patreon, you can do us a huge favor by giving us a 5-star review, a 5-star rating, and a good review.
Yeah.
A few kind words goes a long way, wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Help us out here.
And our sponsor, as always, is Green Camel Press. Go check them out at greencamelpress.com. We make comic books, we make greeting cards, we do all kinds of cool stuff. So go check us out there, greencamelpress.com. YES. Y is for yes. And what do we mean when we say yes? Well, I don't think that you...
I know it's the opposite of no.
Exactly, yes. Basically, the idea is, and this is something in the 12-step program that we both subscribe to, is the idea of never saying no when somebody reaches out for help. And I think it goes a long way to just the nature of recovery in general. And, we're here to help each other out. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where someone said, "Hey man, I really need your help." And you've had to go and either you give them a ride to a meeting, or I don't know if you've ever met somebody at a meeting, or has anybody ever reached out to you that you've okay.
Yeah. Everybody the people who have reached out to me that are near me reached out to me in early recovery. And I got to think of the aspect of it for me was like punk rock, like slam dancing in a pit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when we used to slam dance and you'd run? I don't know if you did a lot of that.
A little bit.
But you'd run in a circle, right? Like everybody, it's not like a mosh pit now where everybody just slams into each other and does kung fu and shit. Like this, you ran in this circle. And when someone fell down, you picked that guy up and pulled him back into the circle with you to keep running, right? So you'd pick up your compatriot in the pit. But when I first started going to shows at 14, 15, I didn't know to pick the guy up. I just kind of stepped on him and kept running in the pit. Kept slam dancing because I didn't know what to do until someone else showed me that that's what I was supposed to do. So in early recovery, when people who were near me would hit me up, I had that hesitancy to help out because I was so new at it myself. I was kind of sketched out by a little bit because I was never in a position to help anyone with anything. So in the early recovery, it wasn't like this thing that happened. I got sober and then all of a sudden I was ready to, reach out to the fucking world and help them all out. St. Francis, birds flying all over me and shit, I didn't have that capacity, but now with a couple of, handful of years under my belt, it's a little different because I actually feel more empathy towards other people, towards people I know or have an acquaintance with who have reached out to me. And mostly it's been people reaching out to me from, out of state or other places who have just asked me how I did it or what I do or how it works or, and I kind of, every case is different. Every single person I talk to is different. But I think nowadays, if someone locally had hit me up, I'd probably be like, yo, come meet me at this meeting and maybe follow up. Whereas in the beginning, I was really gun shy because I didn't know any better and I was crazy. I'm still fucking crazy, but I was a lot crazier.
I feel the same way. I mean, it's been 3.5 years and this is the first chunk of time where I've actually been responsive and receptive to people reaching out. You know, before I'd be like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, I kind of just do what I do, and it's easy to say that once you've done it for a few years and you go, well, I just do what I do. And they're like, well, what do you do? And it's easy to forget that idea of like, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing at first. And, you know, I had recently had a friend and she had, you know, hit me up about it and was just asking me like, so I don't understand. What do you, you know, how did you go about it? And what are the things, how do you work around it? And so I kind of we had a phone conversation and she's out of state and we just talked for like, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes. And I just told her my story and she shared with me where she was at and dealing with things on Thanksgiving and relationships and family and alcohol and all this stuff. And so, I mean, it feels great to be able to, it feels good to be able to be in that position where I can say yes, where I can feel when somebody needs something out there in the world, or when I see somebody who happens to be a part of the little special club that I'm a part of in the, you know, in the wild, when you're at the CVS or something like that. In early recovery, I would just fucking like drop whatever I was gonna buy and leave because I didn't want to like get stuck in line and have to talk to somebody about something. And now I'm like, oh, hey, I'll go fucking shake his hand and how's you doing? And you need something? And it's totally cool. And it becomes this thing that I really can't tell anybody what to do. And I can only say that it was very difficult for me in the beginning to say yes to anything. But little by little, you're like, okay, well, I'll go to this one meeting and I'll talk to this one guy and I'll read this one book and every day, you know, and it's kind of like when I started getting on that calorie counting program that you're on.
Yeah.
And I realized one day, and I'm going to try and make this transition here clean, but so
let's see what happens.
It started to work, right? So I was like, holy shit, I actually started seeing results from this. And I was like, holy fuck. Cause it was kind of like the first day that I did the calorie counting program. And I wish there was a way to do this. They should have one of these things for drinking. It would definitely, if you could actually remember to plug in how many drinks you had and what you did and all that stuff. But I think
an infinity symbol. That would just be your option, an infinity symbol. Anyway.
So yeah. So it was like the first day I was like, how the fuck did I eat 5,600 calories in one day? And it's like, well, don't have 9 chocolate chip cookies for breakfast, John.
Nice.
But so as I began to like get down, and it scared me. And I think that was too in recovery, was like, it was just a fucking shock. And I was like, oh, something has to be done. This is really bad. And it's not going to get any better unless you change this thing. And so in that kind of like the little app and counting calories, and I'm like, holy shit, I've actually lost weight, Jerry. Did I tell you that?
Yeah.
I'm down to like,
no.
I'm down below 260, not by much, but it feels good. Yeah.
But you see it.
So you see it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so that's another thing. In those first couple of months, I didn't really see anything, but I also wasn't doing anything. And then you start to do a couple of things. And one thing that I realized, and I hear this a lot, is that, it takes what it takes, and it takes as much time as it takes, and it's going to come the way that it's supposed to, and everything.
Yeah.
And that sounds so ethereal and nebulous and like, well, it takes what it takes, and don't be too hard on yourself, and
patience is a virtue.
Exactly. And so, but then I was like, oh shit, that's exactly what it is. So 3.5 years on, here I am, like totally eager to help and looking for people to help and looking for ways to help and writing in my journal like, please help, Lord, find a way that I may be of service to somebody else. And so it's taken me 3.5 years to get to a point where I'm actually looking forward to those things rather than running away from them. But it's not without that being able to be open, the like, crack the door of your mind a little bit. I don't, it sounds silly.
No, but... it makes sense. Yeah. It's funny because I wouldn't say I'm of opposite mind, but I definitely still have my reservations about it. I think it's a lot more doubt than anything else, because I would hate to be representative of any be a bad representative of any organization or any way of doing a certain thing. I don't want to be the wrong representation of that, which is doubt that I have for myself. It's a lot of fear and shit I need to work with. It's just like when we were doing this podcast, I mean, just to honor the traditions of like kind of the group we're in, you know, I'm like, well, you know, we should be really kind of sparingly and referring to it. And I also didn't want to come off as like, I'm representative of this thing and I'm a garbage person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing this thing correctly. So I think I still kind of have that doubt in me. You know, I want to help. The empathy is there. If the opportunity presents itself, I will help in any way I possibly can. But I think where I run kind of a little opposite in opinion from you is that I'm not looking is the wrong word, but do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not out, not even actively is also the wrong way of putting it, but I'm not out like, I want to help someone today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of like doing my own thing, and if you need help, well, I got you, dude. But other than that, I'm not just being like, well, how? Maybe that's what I should change, you know. But
this was another thing that, and I don't have it in front of me, do I? It was a there's another little book called Daily Reflections that's really good, and I don't
yeah,
know,
I like that.
You know
one.
this one?
I got it. I think I
it.
got it. I should have it.
There in the one of the ones that was really cool, and I can't find it right now, but basically that idea of getting out of your own head. If you go and try and help somebody with their problems, you're not going to think about yours,
right?
And so it's part of that empathy, and it's part of that, you know, pushing outward rather than pushing inward. If that doesn't,
right?
I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but just helping other people is always going to make you happier. Because you are not, it's so easy for us to sit around the house and be like, oh man, life sucks. Oh, I don't, you know, and you're like, oh, well, I got clean water and good food and sun is shining, or maybe it's not, but you know, it's still out there. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I just know that for me, it's like, okay, how can I help? And whether it's doing this podcast or talking to you or reaching out to somebody or even just being available, you know? So I think that, and also, you know, you're not representative necessarily of any group. No group has asked you to be a representative.
Exactly.
Other than,
they shouldn't. Yeah. No.
But
don't do that.
But regardless of what group in sobriety or, you know, that you belong to, that you and I belong to, or somebody else out there, they may belong to an entirely different group. I mean, ultimately, it's like, how did you not drink today? And that's basically it, right? Yeah. I mean, you would be
absolutely.
You would be a valiant.
Is, right? Yeah.
You would be a valiant and a valuable example because you didn't drink today,
right?
Not yet.
Damn, I didn't think about it that way. I hear other ways of that because I've actually expressed that to someone close to me too, who is, you know, also in recovery, and they told me, well, dude, you do your podcast, and that right there is service, you know, that's service work. And it kind of like, you know, sometimes I have to remember that, not just for the podcast alone, but just even what you bring up, like it's easy to lose track of those things in recovery. And I guess even like I can let, you know, people out there listening is that it's really easy to lose track of those things because of life, you know, because every day is not all about, like, I don't wake up and I'm like, I'm recovering every day. Like, I don't even really, honestly, at this point, I don't think about it all the time. I wake up grateful that I'm not hungover. Mm-hmm. So I guess I do think about it. But I guess my point is, like, life gets in my way. Like, I got to pay bills and rent and Christmas and fucking this and that. And, like, man, I don't know if you've seen my hair lately, but I'm growing out this hot-ass skullet, dude. And it is just fucking bumming my life out. Like, I'm just, like, with my wife, like, man, I've grown my hair out for a year. Like, maybe I should cut it. And she's like, do what you want to do. And I'm like, no, motherfucker, give me an answer. Like, somebody give me an answer here, right? Whereas, like, I just need to make the decision for myself. Maybe I can live with the skullet. Maybe I can't, you know? This is my big metaphor for recovery and helping people in recovery.
Is your hair?
My hair misfortune, yeah. You know, like...
Well, okay. So... You could get a haircut.
We're going down this path, right? Yeah.
You could get a haircut. Yeah. You could let it grow out. You could, I mean, how does it make you feel right now? It's hot and sweaty under a knit cap?
Nah, it's actually, I don't even think about it. Actually, I took the knit cap off to adjust it and saw it and I was like, God damn, you look like a crypt keeper, dude. Like, you are fucking your life up right now. And so, you know, but then exactly, right? Yeah, I just need some alcoholism puns, you know.
I think it's always, I just think in early recovery, saying yes is such an important thing. Because
Absolutely.
if I did not, if
Absolutely.
I said no at one point, I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't have made that next step and that next step and
I
that
agree
next
with
step.
you
And
wholeheartedly. Yeah.
I wouldn't have been willing. There was this huge amount of, no, there wasn't a huge amount. There was enough willingness to get me to like the next meeting and to talk to somebody and to get
Yeah.
into a mentorship with somebody else and or sponsorship, And so I feel like if at any point I was on the fence about it, and I know that, I imagine some of our listeners are on the fence about it. The only thing I would say is that all of the alcohol and all of the drugs and all of the bad behavior and all of the bad decisions, I swear they are going to be waiting right there for you if you want to go back to them.
Oh yeah, they're just like, get in here, get into the shit soup with us. This is the best. And then you get into shit soup, and then you're like, fuck, I'm in the soup.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, it is there waiting for you.
So what's the other one you always say about the push-ups? He's doing my alcoholics.
That's an old trope, but yeah, it's the my alcoholics doing push-ups in the parking lot, just waiting. It's working out in your brain, right? I mean, it is an old cliche, but it really stuck with me. And then I thought of like Mr. Clean out there doing push-ups in the parking lot of this church I'm sitting in the basement of, just waiting
like
and
Tyler
I still
Durden.
it's weird, right, to live with that though. That's the other thing too, is it's really weird to have that in my head, to know that, to be aware of it. Like, you know what? I can go back to committing the slowest suicide I could commit. I can just go right back to it. If I guess that's what I wanted, but that's not what I want,
Well, let me ask you.
And I think that's what a lot of people don't want.
No. Well, so what stops you?
I don't. What a.
Is that too?
No, I gotta. No, it's not. I'm trying to be delicate with my words, but to be frank, it's just the dumbest fucking way to die. And I don't mean to be indelicate with people who have lost, loved ones to alcoholism. I've lost, people I've cared about to drug addiction and alcoholism, and I just always thought like, fuck, I'm really gonna die. Like, that's so dumb. Like, it's just a waste. It's just, there's so much potential out there. And I had to and I knew that I didn't want to go back to it because I wanted to like myself. Like, I wanted to be like, you're all right, dog. Like, you're cool. You're cool. Everything's cool. I wanted to, yeah. So that's why that's one of the reasons why I don't go back. I mean, we could do a whole 30 minute podcast about reasons why I don't drink, yeah. But all of them are positive things, Oh man. You know what else I heard someone say today? It was, oh no, I lost the thought. It was something like no one ever celebrated getting drunk or something. I can't remember what it was, but it was very profound, and I'll remember it next week.
Okay,
yeah.
So it is.
Damn,
it's a
that
dumb,
was some bad podcasting right there.
It's a dumb fucking way to die, and
for me personally, but that's, I think, the one that comes to mind immediately.
And you thought? I thought that that's how I was going to die. I guess maybe I didn't think about it too much. I just got drunk again, so I didn't have to. But there were
that was
those.
my plan. That was my plan. Like, straight up, God's honest truth, that my plan was to kill myself drinking, because I knew that it wasn't going to be a scary drop. It was just a slow fucking suicide. It was just like, this is the slowest way I can kill myself, smoking and drinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, what were you saying? I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just
no,
I like doing it, I guess.
I'm thinking about that now, and just that whole, especially those last few years of drinking, and I didn't really, I just saw it was just kind of this cyclical hell in that. It just, I would wake up, be really hungover. Sometimes I would drink in the morning. Sometimes I wouldn't. I was not I hadn't gotten to the point where it was a regular kind of drinking in the morning thing, but there was definitely those days where I would have a beer at 8:00 in the morning and then try and go back to sleep, and then wake up at like 10 or 10:30 and have a couple more with breakfast, and then drive to go to my job, and then go to work, and sometimes drink at work, and then drive home. And then just repeat. And then I would sit on my couch and smoke cigarettes and chug whatever I could get my hands on, whatever store was open. It didn't matter, wine or beer.
Dan.
Yeah. Steely Dan.
Steely Dan. Yeah.
Fucking smoke cigarettes and watch stupid cartoons until I woke up and felt terrible again. And I don't know that I thought that I wanted to. There were moments where I wanted to die. I wish I was dead.
Yeah.
But in those first few months of recovery, I just wanted to feel. I wanted to feel better, and I wanted to feel anything else. There, I was like, God, there's got to be something else, and thank God there was. Thank God there is. And
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It continues, and the whole idea of service is on so many levels, and so I think a lot of times it is repeated and it is ingrained. There are certain ways to do service, and there's certain ways to do service in certain programs, and that's very true, right? So they have things for people some people need more discipline, right? So some people need more structure. And so that's great. So you go like, you can do 1, you can do 2, you can do 3. You can sponsor somebody. You can chair a meeting. You can pour the coffee. You can clean up, like all those things. And so it's like these little things when you've spent all your time being a selfish asshole and sleeping in and staying up late and stealing and lying and cheating so that you can feed this horrible monster inside you. That's a hard thing to just be like, oh, well, there's lots of different ways you can do service. And so I think, and you said it before where you're like, God, I just hear the same things over and over and over, and it gets a little tiresome. And I don't want to assume, but I can also think that those are the things that probably scare you the most. So you find resentment in them, possibly. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. No, I mean, you could be fucking hitting a little vein of gold right there. I don't know. It absolutely, you know what? Absolutely is. I mean, if we get into the wheels of the program and all that shit, and yeah, I definitely don't work a conventional program, as far as working within this 12-step program we work, I mean, what I'm doing is working for me now, but, there's also the fear that it will stop working at some point,
And do you think if that fear came up that you wouldn't find something else to...
I don't know if I mean, I can't knock on wood and say that I wouldn't let it get that bad again. I would hope I wouldn't. But if that fear, I guess, what's the question?
So the question is, if this wasn't working for you enough anymore, would you double down, or would you go seek something else out, or would you just say, it's not working, man, this fucking thing doesn't work, I'm going to go back to what I was doing before?
I don't know if I'd want to go back to what I was doing before, because what I was doing before fucking was expensive and it sucked, and it made me feel so physically and emotionally bad, and I have responsibilities to not only me but the people around me. Now, I think I'd probably double down. Honestly, if I felt it not work anymore, dude, I'd probably be like, hell yeah, I'll go to hospitals and institutes. I'll go and sit there with that dude who's fucking seeing spiders and shit. Like, yeah. I imagine that's what I would do, because the little tiniest bit I have worked of it, has fucking helped me immensely. Like, my life has improved in ways that I never thought they would. And not even with like physical shit, like, oh, I got a car and I got a house and all that. I mean, no, man, it's improved. As the other night, we're in the midst of like tattoo season slow right now. So of course we got to like tighten the belt around this time of year. But even with all that stress, I remember looking at my wife and being like, holy shit. And she's like, what? And I was like, dude, I just realized that it's going to be okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, those moments never came when I was drinking. I never thought we're going to be okay. We were never going to be okay. I was never going to be good. And like, I had this revelation just even recently that it's going to be all right. It's whatever happens needs to happen, because there's no way I can stop it. So I've gotten more out of this than anything else. So if I do hit the day where I'm like, this is all gray and I've already heard this song 50 times in a row, then I need to like double down and get another album from that same band or something.
Exactly. Change the station even, maybe.
Word,
I don't know.
Exactly.
Flip
Change
the
record. Word.
And
exactly.
if the record's broke, man, maybe you get a new player, you fucking fix it, get a fresh needle and a new record.
I think honestly, as alcoholics, like, and I can't speak for you, but I'm going to. I think we just always kind of live in a time of like conflict. Like, there'll always be an inner or outer conflict. I think even normies or normal people who don't drink alcoholically, they have conflict constantly. There will always be a conflict. There will never. There will always be one or another, even if it's the tiniest little conflict, like a door in my house is broken, and that will fucking bug me out. So it's just a matter of having the tools to deal with that conflict.
Yeah.
And that's what's saying. So I guess the yes thing is multi-layered, right?
Sure.
I always try to rope it back into the subject because it's just me and 8,000 metaphors. But like, like it's not just of service. It's also just accepting and saying yes to the fact that this is just what life is. It's conflict punctuated by serenity and punctuated by moments of joy, and like man, we're not guaranteed anything, you know. And we're definitely not guaranteed a smooth ride. I mean, I don't know anybody out there who has a smooth ride. I don't care how much money you have or how good looking you are. Like, there's always something, dude. Meet the finest girl in the world who's got money and she's just made of IBS. Do you know what I mean? Like, her guts are always fucked up. I mean, it's always something, you know? Like, so how do we deal with that? What tools do we use?
Yeah, I think that service and saying yes to service can mean a lot of different things. And so the service that I'm doing, you know, today as we record this is hopefully this gets shared with somebody who it resonates with and, you know, reverberates with, and so on and so forth, and other things that I'm doing in the program. But I know that when I very first started recovery, and I'd go to meetings and, you know, try not to talk to anybody. And honestly, I'd get on the call with you and we'd talk about it. And that was the extent of it. But one of the things I did was, like, I used to go and volunteer at the museum. So I went to the art museum here in town. And
I didn't know that.
So I was just trying to do anything, right? I was like, what's the opposite of what I've been doing? Okay, I'm going to get up at 9:00 in the morning. I'm going to go to the art museum and I'm going to help them set up for exhibits. That's the opposite of, like, staying up till 4 a.m, fucking drinking all the party wine that I could and listening to Steely Dan and posting every Steely Dan song on my Facebook page from like 4 to 6:30 in the morning, peppered in there with incoherent poetry that, you know, makes Gertrude Stein look like
Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss, yes.
I
thank
don't know.
you. Sure. So
why not?
So it was me and like a bunch of 70-year-old dudes from the Kiwanis Club moving walls. And these fucking old guys were just, come on, put your back into it, young boy.
And you're just sweating out booze.
Yeah,
is this early?
This is
recovery?
early, so this is like 4 or 5 months in, something like that.
Oh, so you've already physically sweated it out.
Physically sweated it out,
but you're emotionally sweating it out at this point. Yeah.
So it didn't because I was scared of, because I didn't want to say yes to things like God, and I didn't want to say yes to things like inventories, and I didn't want to say yes to things like, you know, sharing with somebody else. So I was like, oh, I can go move some walls and help the old guys get set up for the fucking surfboard art of California coast or whatever. And so my point is that it can take on many different things. And so there doesn't have to necessarily feel this. I don't think anybody should feel any guilt for not doing enough.
Right.
So I would just say, are you staying sober today? Well, then you're doing enough.
You're doing enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Now,
and then eventually you get to level up.
You level up and
you know what I mean? You like level up, and maybe now you're not just sober, but you want to like have some quality of life.
You want to have some quality of recovery, because
quality recovery, that's better.
You know, because we talk about this. Like, how do you define? What's the definition of like a dry drunk? Is
doing all the same shit you did drunk while sober. You don't got to be inebriated to act like a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
You know, it's like selfishness and self-centeredness and doing everything for you and being restless and irritable and discontented and
miserable.
Just being miserable, just feeling like garbage, like a garbage person.
And so if you want some quality in your sobriety, you want some quality in your recovery, you know, saying yes to things. And you know, I want to say that, like, I love the idea that it takes the time that it takes, and, you know, easy does it, and don't rush it. And I certainly don't, and I'm going to speak for myself here, because I don't know. I see a lot of people who are, you know, when I see things online, maybe, you know, that should be my first, you know, mark that I shouldn't, you know, the stuff that I see online, I don't always need to agree with, but you know, this, it's okay if you're not okay, and it's okay to take a day off, and it's okay to do whatever it is to make yourself feel better. And
right.
I think that's fine to an extent for me. Okay, because I know for me, if I lay in bed and take my mental health day, and if I spend the day, I don't know, eating less than nutritious meals and spending it all my time fucking around and playing video games, which again is not a bad thing necessarily.
Yeah.
I feel it's at some point you have to say stop. You have to go and you go for a walk and change your brain. You got to go, you have to go and do the work that is required of your recovery if you want it. And so I feel like to an extent I try to take care of myself the best way that I can and remember that it takes what it takes. But when it's time to suit up, show up, and shut up, I don't know. That I really try to like get into that mode full force. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to discourage anyone from taking their taking care of themselves. I'm sorry, and I just
No,
sometimes I feel
I
like
think
this idea of self-care gets taken to the point of just and I've done this for myself, self-care to the point of just feeding your own fears and going, I'm just too afraid and I can't do anything and I can't do anything and I can't do anything. And then you're like, well, because it's just self-care. Well, I have to take care of myself. And when I get that way, I know that it's not. It doesn't feel like self-care, and I don't feel good afterwards, whatever that might be.
This is just your personal philosophy.
This is just
the way you do your own life.
This is my own personal philosophy.
Yeah.
And so I really have to be careful that I don't allow my idea of self-care to turn into self-pity, and then then turns into self-loathing, which then really wants to fucking buy a bottle of vodka.
Right. And then that turns into fear and loathing.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, but everybody's wired differently. This is just the way that, you know what? This is interesting though, because this is part of your program. This is part of the program you work. This is how you work it.
Yeah.
We're all different.
Yes.
One size is not, you just get the parameters of the thing and then you work with it how you do. It's just,
And that's another thing. I don't have any real judgment or resentment toward anybody else and how they do it, because if it's working for them, then what do I care?
Yeah, exactly. It's just a tool, man. I mean, if you gave a bunch of people a hammer who have never seen a hammer before and told them to use it as a tool, they would all use it differently. They have one guy hammering it by the fucking handle, one guy hammering it sideways. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they would all use it differently. So, but it would all either some of it's effective and some of it's not. But I mean, it's all effective for that person, whatever way they're figuring out the way to use it.
And I'm always receptive to anybody who can say, hey, at least I am more so now, that says, hey, can I show you a better way to use that hammer?
Absolutely. You know what? So am I. It's funny. I've noticed this too, is that, so like with work, and someone would tell me, well, you should draw it this way or you should do it this way. And I would get like really defensive and totally take it personally. Like it was an attack on the way I did my art. And I'd bite a fucker's head off. And now I listen. I invite it. I'm like, tell me how you would approach this, because your perspective is important to me. And this is something I learned through recovery, is being open to these ideas, saying yes, yes, to these new ideas. Any other collaborative effort has always been beneficial for me most of the time. Why would this not?
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say also, I think when you do the promo for this, it should be a still from Jim Carrey's Yes Man. The one where he drinks like 8,000 Red Bulls and stays up all night at a rave.
That's Liar Liar. You're thinking of...
No, it's Yes Man, because someone offered him Red Bull and he said yes, and then he drank like 15 of them.
Oh, I don't think I saw that one.
Yeah, you should. I mean, it's not fucking Oscar material or anything, but
we're not talking about I Love You Man with a slap at the bass, Paul Rudd. You're talking Yes Man with Jim Carrey.
Man, where like he takes a vow to say yes to every single thing that's asked of him, and then he falls in love with like Jennifer Aniston or some motherfucker like that, or I don't know.
So
anyway, he just says yes to every single thing that happens in his life. So they're like, you want to take yoga lessons? And he's like, yes. And then they're like, you want to come see my band? And he's like, yes.
And it changes his life for the better.
Would you like to talk about Jesus Christ? He's like, yes. And then,
Yes. I don't know what I was gonna say, but
I know I carried you, dude.
That's okay.
I carried you off the path.
It's so for me, it's just, and again, that's just, those things are just mine. And you're right.
Yeah.
I don't. It's being open to those things and being able to take criticism is something I didn't used to be able to do either. And this was what I was going to say, is I was talking to somebody about, I was doing some video for something, and I said, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a very dear old friend, who's also very honest and blunt. I'm sure you can imagine who I was talking to, and he and I were we were out to lunch,
exactly
and I said, hey man, I wanted to ask you about this video thing that I was doing. And we were out to lunch, and he said, well, can I be completely honest? And I was like, yeah, go ahead, because it's probably going to be true. And he says, you do this thing where you're enunciating with your mouth, and it's fine. He's like, have you ever heard the phrase, you got a face for radio? And I was like, Jesus, what are you saying here? He said, you enunciate on the radio, and that's great. And it comes off really clear and nice, when you're doing the podcast at the microphone. But when you're doing it on video, it makes me want to punch you in your fucked up mouth. And I was like, and my initial reaction was, I wanted to be like, well, fuck you. What do you know? I'm just trying to talk clear to the people. Mm-hmm. And I went back and I watched some video something I was working on. And I was like, I do want to punch me in the face. Why am I doing that with my mouth? And so I was trying to over enunciate everything. And so my mouth was blah, 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 whatever. And,
right. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. And so it's fine to have a reaction, right? And it's fine to be angry, and it's fine to feel something, but you don't always have to react on it right away with people.
Yeah.
And inviting that criticism, and that's something too that I've learned in recovery, is that it's okay, and that it's actually,
when you learn from it,
mm-hmm.
you learn.
So yeah, I think that it's you learn. You keep going further and further and further, and hopefully at some point you kind of find that, what's the words I'm looking for? You just, the calm, the ease, the serenity, the contentment. That's always the hope. I mean, I certainly am constantly right now, my particular situation is that I'm I'm trying to get this business up and running, right? And I'm out here peddling, trying to get people to buy these Christmas cards, right? And so it's like a week from Christmas. By the time you guys all hear this, it'll be Friday before Christmas. And so, you go out, and I'm super positive, and I'm excited, and I'm going door to door, and I'm selling these Christmas cards. And by the end of the day, I feel like fucking Jack Lemmon and Glenn Ross.
Oh, he does Glengarry leads, dude. Yeah.
And so
Damn.
it's really, really hard sometimes. And so we all have rough days, and we all have rough days that start off really good, and we all have really bad days that start off that end up really great.
Yes.
So
that's a great way of putting it.
So it balances out. There's only this one moment, There's another good book that I'm reading called The Power of Now, and Be Here Now, and all that kind of good stuff. I think I mentioned that before, but it's just, every time that I say yes to something in recovery, I end up feeling so much better. I don't know if you've ever been on the fence about, yeah, maybe I should go to this meeting, but
every single time, dude.
I don't want to have to. Yeah, if I leave now, then I got to do this thing before, or
right.
I don't know, I kind of ate heavy and I don't want to have to use the bathroom there.
Exactly, dude.
And so you're on the fence. And let me ask you this. Every time you do that and you go to that meeting, how do you feel afterwards?
Content as fuck, dude. I'm like walking around little furry unicorn slippers and shit. It's like, I feel better because I get to be around my people. Mm-hmm. And the whole time I'm like trying everything I can to avoid my people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then how do you
get there?
And how do you feel?
Oh.
How do you feel when you do you often go on the other side and say, fuck it? How do you feel when you say fuck
frequently?
it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the same. I don't feel bad necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, there's always varying degrees of feeling
Sure.
bad for me personally, but there's no head change. I feel the same. I feel exactly the
Right.
same as if, I mean, throughout the day, whereas if I do go, there actually is a change of perspective in my life. Whereas if I don't go, life just kind of continues on. It either goes on a downhill trajectory
Or
it just stays the
flatlines.
same. Whereas if 8 times out of 10, if I make a meeting afterwards, I'm kind of on a nice uphill because I get to be comfortable around people who are like me, you know? Yeah. If anything, that's what I get out of it, you know, then that's better than just staying the same all day, you know?
Right.
Yeah. But I can't say, I don't go to a meeting. I feel like hot garbage all day. No,
No, not necessarily, but yeah.
I
no,
just
thank
feel
you.
like I've probably said garbage like 20 times in this one podcast.
We're gonna have you can say trash.
I don't even want to say we did trash, hot trash, garbage. I'm just leaning on the word garbage. That's like the 10th time. I want you to drink a LaCroix every time I say garbage, and whoever pees first loses.
Can I
Those
go
are
those are our
recovery drinking games.
recovery
Yeah.
drinking games. So when you say yes, you feel better. I mean, and so that's
the point. Yeah.
and that's what we're always looking for, is to change our mindset as alcoholics. We've been looking for that since we were little kids. Like, oh, if I eat a
Right.
pixie stick, I catch a buzz, you know. And then you
Right.
get older, and you're
Yeah.
like, if I have some Boone's Hill Farm, I fucking feel great, you know.
Right.
And then it's like, whether it's whiskey or you go see a meeting, or you go to a meeting now in recovery, and you just feel so much better. And whatever that thing is for you, whether that thing is yoga or that thing is, you know, meditation or
reading literature on
whatever.
or anything. Really,
Yeah.
walking in the woods, walking
Dude.
in the desert.
Exercise
through
is
the city.
huge. Yeah, walking,
Yeah.
any of that stuff to change your mindset. And so I think that yes is probably the most important word in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
I can't
Say yes to the dress.
say what is that, like on TLC? Is that like
Yeah, I think it's a
fashion
wedding
thing?
show.
It's a wedding show.
I think
Okay.
it's a wedding show. Yeah, that's just what I think of every time. And then I don't watch any of that. I don't like any of that.
Say yes.
But
to
maybe
the
I
dress.
should. Maybe I should say yes to the dress and see if it'll change my perspective on things. And then I'm crying at the end, and I'm like, "You go, Kelsey. You get fucking. You marry him."
Thanks again for listening. Our music, as always, is by Neglect. You can find more of his stuff at neglect.bandcamp.com.
And you can find us on all social media platforms that matter: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can reach us at aisforalcoholic@gmail.com.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.